Welcome to the Daily Briefing from interest.co.nz. I'm David Jaston. Stock markets around the world are struggling to deal with falling confidence in the banking sector and continuing problems with the credit crunch. Today we look at two benchmarks. Firstly, the risk premium markers we monitor, and secondly, the gold price. We'll also check the latest population stats and wrap up with what the other media are reporting. If you have a mortgage, you'll be keenly aware of the relentless rise in interest costs. You're either paying more or you're about to. But if you're a very conservative investor and hold risk-free US Treasury bonds, you'll be getting less and less yield. The difference is the risk premium for money in New Zealand. Some of it relates to the risk for just being in New Zealand, the sovereign risk, and some of it relates to the type of borrowing, the commercial risk. It is the sovereign portion that has been rising fast and getting faster recently. In fact, as you can see from this chart, the premium for 1 year money is almost at 5%, which is very high. For 5 year money, it is also high, now at over 4% for the first time in a long time. But we should be somewhat thankful that we can access credit at all. The real risk of those international wobbles is that credit could dry up substantially at any price. We'll have a full update of this developing situation from Dr. Neville Bennett on Friday. Not since the early 1980s has the gold price been so high. Gold is the traditional commodity that is sought when uncertainty rises, as a store of value. In the past few days it has surged over $800 an ounce, 37,100 New Zealand dollars a kilo. The rise has been dramatic and really started when more investors started seeing the international credit crunch getting infectious. We first reported on the growing impacts of this in February of this year. At that time, the price of gold was $664 an ounce, or 33,500 New Zealand dollars a kilo. Since then, our currency has appreciated 9%, while the price of gold has gone up 20% in US dollar terms. So much of that international price rise has been offset by our currency. The price rise in New Zealand dollars is still 11% in about 8 months. So that makes a good point. The risks being priced in are as much US risks as they are international risks. And by the way, in January 1980, the record price reached was $850 an ounce. At that time, 1 New Zealand dollar bought 98 US cents, so the price at that time was the equivalent of 30,600 New Zealand dollars. Given the inflation in the intervening period, that is equivalent to 141,000 in today's dollars. So if you invested in gold in January 1980, it would have been a very poor investment indeed. Population growth during the September 2007 year was mainly due to natural increase, that is the excess of births over deaths, of 34,400. Net migration in that period only added another 8,300 in this latest year. These changes brought our population up to 4.24 million. However, there's some important shifts going on in New Zealand's demographic makeup. Those aged 65 and over are growing at a much faster rate than the working age population. The over 65s are growing at 2.9% per year, whereas the working age population is only growing at 1% per year. And unfortunately, the group growing the slowest is those 15 and under. Their numbers are barely growing at all. Dorchester Pacific has advised that it received the resignation of its chief financial officer, the latest in a series of senior managers that have quit the company over the past few years. World prices for our commodities increased almost another 2% in October to yet another record. This was driven higher by better prices for skins and hides, lamb meat, wool, dairy products and aluminium. But on a trade-weighted basis, our currency rose more than twice as fast, which means that returns in New Zealand dollars fell. Still, some of it is sticking in New Zealand dollar terms. Commodity prices overall were 20% higher in October compared with that month in 2006. You can get more news and start with Newsmaker Views on our news page. Join us again tomorrow for the freshest finance news on the web. We'll see you then.